In the world where every camera manufacturer competes with megapixels, autofocus points, speed, ISO performance, global shutters, we get this gem of a camera that is something completely different. Something I personally have not seen since the failed attempt from Zeiss to create the fixed lens camera with built-in Lightroom, which by the way, I thought it was genius and I'm really sad it failed. So something that is so different that I freaking love it. And yes, you guessed correctly, I'm talking about Sigma BF. An absolute beauty of a camera made of one single piece of aluminum. And yes, internet is 100% correct saying that this camera looks like camera that could come out from the hands of Steve Jobs and Johnny Ive from Apple. The camera that is not about functionality or performance, but is about the look and feel. And here's the important part. I am a professional wedding photographer. If you don't know me yet, my name is Magic. I've been shooting destination weddings since 2012, and for the last 7 years, I have also been Sony Europe ambassador, but I left the program because I wanted to be able to try and shoot any camera that I like. Subscribe and follow my journey of testing all the cameras from ex-Sony ambassador perspective. But the thing I wanted to touch on first, that I am used to the most technologically advanced cameras. My daily cameras for weddings are dual Sony A9 III, insanely fast and capable cameras. And often, when I'm handed a good camera from other manufacturer, I can immediately tell that it's slower or less accurate compared to what I'm used to. With Sigma BF, even though it's not even close to what I can do with my Sony A9 IIIs, I don't care. I don't care how much less functional it is because it's the pleasure of using it that is beyond that. It gives me so much fun, and yes, it does inspire me to take it and shoot. A feeling very similar to using Leica cameras for a third of that price. This camera is definitely a statement and a proof of the point that we reached. Everything is so perfect technologically that many of us will be looking for something that is simply different. Okay, that's the intro. Let me unpack and share my experience, bunch of clips and sample photos from the time that I was using this camera. I don't have it on me. I don't own it. Quick disclosure, I loaned this camera from Sigma for around 2 weeks back in May for my own purpose of testing it and possibly finding replacement for my good old Sony RX1R Mark II as my everyday carry camera. I sent it back and I miss it. They did not sponsor the video and I have no affiliation with them. I do have a different sponsor for this video, and it's Imagine AI, service that I use to edit all of my wedding photos, and they recently introduced new video feature, automatic color grading, and I'll give you a preview later in the video. So let me give you a quick overview of Sigma BF. Yes, it's an unibody design, just like MacBooks. I guess that's the comparison with Johnny Ive and Steve Jobs. It's made out of one single block of aluminum. The camera is quite heavy and the edges are really sharp to the point that walking with this camera loose feels dangerous, especially when you have little kids. I don't know if it ever happened to any parents here, but when you have your camera on your neck or shoulder and you bend down to help your kids with something and your camera hits their head, this type of situation could be really dangerous with Sigma BF. It's a weapon. And please don't tell this to Sigma, but I did drop mine on my wooden floor, not from any meaningful height, but still I was way more afraid of the floor getting damaged than the camera. The design itself is ultra minimalistic. There's 4 buttons and the dial on the back. And other than the play button, you don't really know what the other do. If you hold Sigma BF for the first time in your hands and try to turn it on, you might find some difficulties. So this is Taylor Jackson trying to turn it on.
How to turn it on? Sigma activate. It didn't do it. No, I can't guess how to turn it on. That button? Mm-hmm. Wow.
He hit 4 buttons to try, and yep, he got it on his 3rd try. Not bad, Taylor Jackson, not bad. What is interesting about the buttons, except the one to turn the camera on, they are not really buttons. It's just a surface with a haptic feedback technology. So just like the old iPhones when they used to have the buttons and they replaced the physical button with the haptic buttons. So when you turn off the camera, you cannot press them. Another interesting thing about the buttons, with the play button, you can either press it to go to the photo playback, or you just touch and hold it to do a quick preview, and when you release the finger, it goes back to photo mode. Then we have this 3-dot option button, that 1-dot power button, a dial with a center button, and oh boy, this dial feels amazing. It's super nice to flick through the photos, but it also has some flaws, and I'll get into that later. And on top of the camera, we have this big, nice shutter button, and that's it. 4 buttons on the back and the shutter button on the top of the camera. Then we have 2 screens, one main LCD monitor, which is absolutely beautiful. It's definitely one of the top screens I've seen on the camera. It's vibrant, it's contrasty, the images, they look amazing on it. It is way better than any of my Sony screens for sure, which is a very sad for Sony cameras. And I've been talking about this for years. The fact that you cannot have this vibrant and nice looking image displays on the Sony cameras, I feel it makes the entire experience of shooting Sony, how do I say that? You don't feel that the image is that good. But then when you load the images, the Sony images to the computer, they'll look amazing. With Sigma, it's kind of opposite. Like I felt like they looked better on the LCD screen of the camera than later on the computer screen. The screen is just so good. And then it's also a touchscreen with sadly no option, at least I didn't find one, to disable it. And I had my AF point going to the corner of the screen every time I had my camera just loosely hanging on my shoulder. I'm going to talk about that later on as well. But yeah, that's sadly an issue. And then we have another tiny screen that is called status monitor that shows the information based on where in the camera menu or the settings we are. And it shows the battery status when we switch off the camera. There's not much else on this camera actually. The top of the camera has only shutter button that I showed you and 2 tiny microphones. The left side of the camera body has only one USB-C port. The only port available on this camera for everything from charging to transferring the files to connecting to accessories like USB-C compatible microphones or headphones. On the right, we have just one single strap attachment point. And then on the bottom, we have a battery that has this really interesting design, but it's super small. We have a speaker and a tripod hole. There's no other ports in this camera again. There's no memory card slot in this camera because the storage is only internal with around 230 gigs. And I really like this idea because it's blazing fast. But I also have some issues on the implementation. I kind of want to talk about all the flaws at the end of the video because I have few of them to go through, but I first want to get into the shooting experience, the performance and sample photos so you get first excited about the camera. So spec wise, I'm not gonna get super deep, but it's basically a full frame camera with 25 megapixel sensor, L mount, no mechanical shutter, just electronic that shoots up to 8 frames per second. It can also shoot video up to 6K 30 FPS, which I did not use. And then I personally shot it with a Sigma 35 f2 contemporary silver lens that matches almost perfectly with this camera, except the black manual focus to autofocus switch. And I'm really not sure why it's black. It's the only black thing on the entire body design except the bottom. So it's weird. And when Sigma launched this camera, I thought, oh, it's beautiful, but probably has a very poor performance. And quite quickly, I had a chance to hold it in my hands on one of the trade shows in Poland. And I was very positively surprised how good the autofocus is. It was focusing and tracking the subject just like it should be. So I asked Sigma for a loaner and I took this camera with me for a few walks with my kids just to try to explore the everyday carry vibes of this camera. And then I took it to Iceland for a workshop that I was invited to co-host. And if you find this Iceland wedding thing really interesting for you, I would love to invite you to my own annual retreat in Iceland. I'm hosting it this October. It's called It's a Kind of Magic. It's a 4 nights in luxurious lodge. We have 2 days of shooting wedding couples in wild scenarios. We have master classes that I'm going to be hosting, feedback sessions. It is a second edition of the retreat, and I had 4.9 star rating from the first one. So check out the link in the description and grab the Puffin promo for the retreat during the summertime. Okay, back to BF. Shooting with this camera, really interesting because there is no mode dial. So I needed to figure out how to shoot aperture priority and auto ISO. It's weird, but after a few many clicking things, I managed to change the settings. I just needed to go on shutter speed to auto and choose the minimum, and then on ISO to auto and choose the range. So the menu and the whole operation of this camera is very different, very unique from the traditional cameras. So there's a learning curve there, but it's pretty intuitive. I'm going to say pretty intuitive because there are a few weird instances that for some things you can only change it with touchscreen, while others require you to use the dial or buttons. So yeah, I don't know why, but at the end you can get to all the settings fairly easily. The focus mode I was using was point to track. Not sure what's the actual name of the focusing, but I had a point on the screen that I was able to move around with touchscreen, and I tried to keep it at the center of the screen and then focus, hold to track, and then possibly recompose. So the focus is very sticky. I had no problems focusing whatsoever and tracking the subjects I want, which was again a very pleasant surprise. As you can see, photos are sharp, are very nice. I'm not going to go too deep on the image look itself because you can basically mount any lens you want on it and have whatever the look you desire. So you can have a vintage Leica lens, you can have M42 lenses via adapters, and of course, tons of Sigma L mount lenses. The other thing that I like is the implementation of the aspect ratio settings in the camera. So you can choose the aspect ratio from the menu that will be displayed on the screen with the black bars on the top and the bottom. And then after loading files to Lightroom, the DNG files, they keep the aspect ratio in the crop, and you can uncrop if you want, but you can work on the crop you chose when shooting, which is very cool. We also have a bunch of color profiles on this camera. I used a mix of standard, rich, and black and white. All of them look amazing on that camera LCD, and then quite boring on the computer, especially black and white. Black and white look really great on that LCD monitor, and then on the Lightroom it looks like this. So you do have options to tweak those, but it's pretty limited. A cool part about it is that you can also change the look in camera for photos that you've already taken. So you can go back from black and white to rich, for example, in camera. So here are some JPEGs straight from the camera with the rich profile and the black and white profile. So the color ones are rich and the black and white are black and white. And here you can see me flick through different color profiles on one picture. So the way I shot with this camera, so aperture priority and auto ISO, I wanted to have quick access to exposure compensation. And as I already mentioned, there's basically no dials on this camera, so except that big dial on the back. So the way this dial works is that it changes whatever settings you currently have selected on your screen via option buttons. And it shows you the preview of that setting on that status monitor, the tiny screen. So if you change color profiles, for example, and you stay on that menu in your quick options, you'll see the name of your current profile on that status screen. And the dial will be activated to change these profiles. If you're on shutter speed, you're going to see the shutter speed and the dial changes the shutter speed. And for me, if I wanted exposure compensation, I just needed to go to exposure compensation in my quick menu, and voila, now the dial changes it and I see the value on that little screen. The camera itself is really responsive, very fast to turn on after sleep, and it shoots immediately, and it's a really pleasure to shoot with it. I'm not gonna lie, I had tons of fun. Now, you've seen some JPEG images, so they look straight out of the camera. So now let me show you a bunch of edited photos, raw photos, and for that, I'm gonna use the sponsored segment by Imagine AI. So This is what I use to edit all of my wedding photos, and I'll show you how it works with new video feature. So for the photos, all of them are automatically edited by AI within just few minutes using my own profile called Magicadabra profile. The way these profiles work is you either create your own based on how you edit your images, or you use someone else's profile. And Imagine offers the entire shop of profiles from different creators, including mine. It applies the look, it corrects the exposure, white balance, and you can even set it to correct tilt, crop, and face mask, auto retouch faces. All of this is a game changer for photos. For videos, Imagine just went out of beta, and it offers automatic color grading using Premiere Pro projects. So all you need is load your clips into Premiere or edit in Premiere, upload that project to Imagine, choose one of the existing looks, and there's a bunch of them, and voila. Your videos in just a couple of minutes are color graded with amazing consistency. It's amazing for photographers that want to get into video because the color grading is always a huge pain in video. And then for those of you who work with video, I highly recommend checking it out because it can save you tons of time. Check out the link in the description whether you want to try editing. You can get 1,500 free photos to edit. So you can basically edit 1 or 2 weddings for free, and make sure to check out the Imagine video. Do you like the photos? Let me know in the comments. Do you like the set of photos from that Sigma BF? I am really happy with them, with both my personal photos of my kids and the photos from Iceland. I have zero complaints about, I don't know, missing shots or maybe a rolling shutter due to that electronic shutter. It was not an issue at all. Nothing like that had any significance in the results. There's tons of quirks though with this camera, and a bunch of flaws that are quite disappointing from the usability point of view. So some of them could be solved with firmware updates, while others just need a next generation BF. And I'm going to list them now with the hope that Sigma does maybe hear us, the users and the potential users, and maybe fix some of that via firmware. And also you can add some of your own if you use that camera. First one, handling. This camera is not very handy, but that's kind of given, with a piece that is more a design, a fashion statement than ergonomic tools. So one thing being the sharp edges, and I can live with that. The biggest issue for me and the missed opportunity is the strap mount. The 1-point mount on the right of the camera just doesn't make any sense with this camera because it's way too heavy and sharp edged to hold it on your wrist. No way I would ever want to do that. This camera would be perfect with the neck strap like this, but you can't. I did go around that and mounted a Peak Design strap on the tripod mount on the bottom of the camera, and then attach the strap from the bottom to that right strap point. But it's extremely unpractical. Just look at this. To comfortably wear it on your body, it needs to lay vertically, and then putting it up to your eyes to shoot, the strap is in the way. And then you can hold it upside down, but then it's sticking out of the body. It's just super impractical. And maybe someone will find some clever way to do it. I did not. 2, lack of viewfinder. While the screen is amazing and the experience when shooting with it, it's top notch, I personally would love to have viewfinder. Even optical would be amazing. Something what Fuji does with its X100 series, that's beautiful. And that's my personal preference because I just love holding the camera to the eye, and this camera would just work best like this in my opinion. And for me, I will take a viewfinder over the tilt screen anytime. And this camera doesn't have any of those two. So there's no tilt screen, there's no viewfinder, sadly. 3, I don't mind the internal storage. I actually really like that idea, but the fact that the only way to transfer the photos is through USB-C cable is a crime to this camera. This ultra futuristic Apple-like camera needs an app. It needs Wi-Fi connectivity. That would be the most perfect experience, to open beautifully designed app on your phone, transfer photos, and voila. Instead of that, we only have a cable. And the only way to transfer the photos is via the cable. Cable in 2025. It's such a missed opportunity, and I understand that it's probably maybe due to the aluminum chassis, but the bottom is not aluminum. I'm pretty sure there was a way to incorporate wireless into this camera, but there is none zero wireless connectivity. 4, no lock screen or lock the dial option. I absolutely love the dial. It's super nice to use, and the buttons on the entire interface, like with that status screen, it's all chef's kiss in terms of the design. But almost every single time I put my camera down on my strap and then I went back to shoot with it, something was switched. Either my point was on the edge of the screen, as I told you before, because my body accidentally moved the point using touchscreen, or touchscreen activated something else than the exposure compensation that I had previously on, and suddenly the dial that I want to change the exposure compensation changes the color profiles instead of that. So that's very annoying, and I believe that's an easy fix with firmware. Just lock the screen, please. 5, color profiles. I wish there was more. I just wish there was more to it. They're okay, but there's nothing really standing out or spectacular. I would love to see implementation of LUTs, just like you have Panasonic S9. You have a LUT button, and you can load whatever LUTs you want, and you can even use an app to browse through LUTs from creators that are being applied to your photos, just like Fujifilm recipes. Or Fujifilm recipes, that's another example of the perfect implementation of the looks in the camera. There are ways to implement that, and I think it's something that it could be added via firmware. Like, this camera would definitely benefit from that. And point number 6, the battery. The battery, yes, the battery sucks. It goes down in a matter of minutes, especially in cold Iceland.
It's getting really cold. How do you call it? Like a cold pack? It's a cold pack on my shoulder right now. Freezing. So now it kills even more. 2% of the battery gone.
Good thing is that you can charge the camera with the power bank. It charges really fast, but it's pretty annoying that after just, an hour of shooting, I was down to 40, 30, sometimes 20%. Sigma BF comes with 2 batteries, so I think they know that the battery sucks. But one idea that I have, because of the interesting design of that battery, I could see a charger that is kind of a charging case like AirPods. So one battery is in the charger in your pocket and it's constantly charged, and then the other in camera, and then you swap and the case charges the other battery. That would be really cool and futuristic, just like this entire camera concept. So those are my 6 issues from photographer's perspective. But hear me out. Even with those issues, I still want to shoot with this camera. And after making video now, 2 months after I handed it back to Sigma, looking at the footage of me using this camera, I want it back. I'm like, it was so cool. And here's another thing. The price of Sigma BF body is $2,000, which in my opinion just makes sense. You could definitely see Leica coming with camera like this for $6,000 or $7,000. Like, it's very well made. It has exceptional design, futuristic user experience, great sensor with great autofocus system, and you can rock tons of lenses on it, giving you the look you want. So $2,000, in my opinion, it's a steal for a camera like this. And is it for everybody? Not at all. Will it be your main workhorse camera? Not at all. Is it the best camera for $2,000? Not at all. But it's extremely fun for those of you who like design, who want futuristic looking camera, making people stopping you on the street and asking about it. And I had a guy at a random station in Iceland shouting after me, "Sir, is that Sigma BF?" That was actually really surprising and funny. And the fact that autofocus works and the images, they look great, is really a relief for those of you who like that design, because it's really very capable full frame camera. You won't be disappointed with images coming out of it, and that's important. And I am personally very much considering getting this camera. I really want it. I really like the design, and I'm currently testing all the everyday type cameras. I'm testing Panasonic S9, as you can see. I've tested Leica Q3, Nikon ZF. I'm hoping to test Fuji GFX 100 RF, and hopefully Sony RX1R Mark III soon. And the end of the series, so my testing series, I will make a decision between all of them. So subscribe if you want to see that, if you want to see comparison between all of them, and make sure to watch this video if you want to come with me to Iceland this October.